Sint Maarten.
Table of Contents, Sint Maarten.
All about Sint Maarten, with visiting and touring information, geography, history, attractions, and other points of interest.
Dr. Sydney Soclof. Dr. Sydney 22 at gmail.com. 2023. Narration by Dr. Sydney Soclof,
Zoe Phonemes,
and Nathan Koltove. For a complete discussion of YouTube navigation, please go to tiny.1/ytnavigator.
Chapter 1. Sint Maarten.
This is a small island shared by the French and the Dutch. The French half is called Sint Maarten,
And the Dutch half is Sint Maarten.
This is the flag of the Dutch half of the island, Sint Maarten.
The French tricolor flag is the official flag of the French half of the island, Sint Maarten.
Where is Sint Maarten?
Here is the island of Sint Maarten. Sint Maarten. It is in the eastern Caribbean in the region of the Lesser Antilles, and in the French West Indies. It is just to the east of the Virgin Islands. The French West Indies consists of the large islands of Guadeloupe and Martinique, both French overseas departments. Also included are their small dependencies, and the two sub-prefects of Guadeloupe, Saint Martin and Saint Barthélemy or Saint Barts.
The tiny island of Saint Maarten/Sint Maarten is divided between France, Saint Maarten, and the Netherlands, Sint Maarten.
The island is 150 miles, or 240 kilometers, east of Puerto Rico.
The tiny island of Saint Maarten/Sint Maarten is only about 5 miles wide and 10 miles long. The French half, Saint Maarten, is on the north, and the southern half of the island is Dutch, and thus divided between France, Saint Maarten, and the Netherlands colony of Sint Maarten. How big is Saint Maarten/Sint Maarten?
This is a satellite image of Saint Maarten. Sint Maarten. The area of the entire island of Saint Maarten. Sint Maarten is 38 square miles or 88 square kilometers. That is a little more than that of the U.S. District of Columbia, or the tiny European country of San Marino.
The island is divided roughly in half between France and the Netherlands. It is the smallest inhabited landmass in the world that is divided between two nations, with the possible exception of a small island in Boundary Lake, between the US and Canada.
Dutch Saint Maarten and French Saint Maarten have maintained a peaceful coexistence for over 350 years, the longest of any two bordering nations. The southern Dutch half is called Sint Maarten and is part of the Netherlands Antilles. The northern French half is called Saint Maarten, and is part of the French overseas region and département of Guadeloupe.
Collectively, the two territories are known as Saint Maarten, Saint Maartens, or simply SXM. SXM is the identity for Princess Juliana International Airport, the island's main airport.
The main towns are Marigot on the French side and Philipsburg on the Dutch side.
The population in the French part of the island is 32,000, and the Dutch side has a population of 39,000. Languages. English is spoken everywhere, but Dutch is the official language of Saint Maarten, and French the official language of Saint Maarten. On the Dutch side, you can also hear Spanish, Papiamento, Italian, Hindi, Chinese, and other languages. On the French side, a Creole patois is also spoken,
History of Sint Maarten.
Sint Maarten history, a quick overview. According to legend, Columbus sighted and perhaps anchored at the island of St. Maarten on November 11, 1493. The feast day of St. Maarten of Tours. Columbus named the island St. Maarten in honor of St. Maarten of Tours. Possibly Columbus anticipated that one day, very far in the future, this island would become a major tourist destination.
The island is now more commonly known as Sint Maarten, Dutch, Saint Martin, French, and Saint Maarten, English.
The Dutch first began to ply the island's ponds for salt in the 1620s. Around 1630 the Dutch and French established small settlements on the island. Despite the Dutch and French presence on the island, the Spaniards recaptured St. Maarten in 1633 and 1 year later built a fort at Point Blanche to assert their claim.
The Dutch and French joined forces to repel the Spanish, and finally achieved this goal around 1644, when the Spanish finally abandoned their claims to the Eastern Caribbean altogether. After driving out the Spanish, the Dutch and French signed an accord in 1648 to divide the island. The Treaty of Concordia of 1648 established this coexistence, and has the unique distinction of being the oldest treaty still in force today.
According to legend, and Frenchman and a Dutchman, or Nederlander, met one day in 1648 at Oyster Pond and agreed to set the boundaries for the two parts of the island.
They decided to divide the island between the Dutch and the French.
They would each start walking around the island until they met up again at the other end.
The Frenchman would go north and the Dutchman would head south. They would draw a line from where they met again to their starting point at Oyster Pond.
This line would establish the division of the island between France and the Netherlands.
This is Oyster Pond today.
So they each started on their long walk around the island. They met up again at the western end of the island. They decided to celebrate the occasion with a few drinks.
With Heineken beer. Of course.
Yes. And some French champagne.
And brandy too.
They met up again at the western end of the island. From there they drew the boundary line. Actually, it was more of a wiggle than a line back to Oyster Pond.
A later treaty made the boundary line somewhat straighter.
And so it was done, with France ending with just a little more than half of the island.
This is a monument of the 300th anniversary of the 1648 treaty. Over the next few years, the boundary was the subject of numerous disputes, which we not settled until 1817. In this period, the island changed hands between the two powers 16 times.
Sint Maarten is officially an island territory, part of the Netherlands Antilles, which is part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Saint Maarten is a French commune, part of Guadeloupe, which is an overseas region, and overseas département of France.
Philipsburg is the capital of Sint Maarten. This is Philipsburg in Sint Maarten. Philipsburg fills a narrow stretch of land between Great Bay and the Great Salt Pond.
Philipsburg was founded in 1763 by John Phillips, a Scottish captain serving in the Dutch Navy.
Philipsburg soon became a bustling center of international trade.
Two main roads cut across the length of Philipsburg: Front Street, the main thoroughfare, and Back Street. Front Street, the main thoroughfare, is lined with duty-free shops offering everything from Italian leather goods and Japanese cameras to native crafts. Front Street's most prominent landmark is the courthouse, built in 1793.
This white wooden structure topped with a cupola now serves as St. Maarten's courthouse.
This is the courthouse in Philipsburg.
This is a view of Philipsburg.
This is the water taxi. From the cruise pier to the shopping area of Philipsburg. The water taxi will take you from the cruise pier to the shopping area of Philipsburg and back for $3. This is the Front Street shopping area in Philipsburg.
This is the harbor area of Philipsburg.
This is the bay near Philipsburg. This is the welcome sign for Philipsburg.
The Gavelberry Emporium in Philipsburg was built on the site of a Jewish synagogue that was abandoned in 1781. This building was the governor's home before becoming the headquarters and retail shop for the famous Sint Maarten Gavelberry Emporium.
The guavaberry has a rich history and is a historical folk liquor that is an important symbol of St. Maarten and the local culture. The guavaberry is high quality, made with fine oak-aged rum, cane sugar, and rare wild Sint Maarten guavaberries found at high altitudes in the center of the island.
This is a street in Philipsburg.
This is a street in Philipsburg.
There are 12 casinos on the island, and all of them are in Sint Maarten. These are casinos in Philipsburg. This is the Casino Royal.
This is the Hollywood Casino.
This is the Maho Plaza Casino.
These are windmills in Philipsburg. This is Philipsburg.
This is the view of Philipsburg from Mount Williams Hill. Marigot.
Marigot is the capital and principal city of the French side of the island. Street Maarten. It is just a short distance, only about 5 miles, or 8 kilometers from Philipsburg. Marigot is known for its sidewalk cafes, colorful open-air markets, and duty-free shops. This is Marigot. The entire city is only 4 blocks wide.
At the southern end of Marigot, next to the Marina Port La Royale, is a museum dedicated to preserving St. Maarten's history and culture.
This is the On the Trail of the Arawaks Museum in Marigot.
A new building of the Arawak Museum houses a variety of Colombian treasures.
This is a view of Marigot. This is a wine shop in Marigot. This is another view of Marigot.
This is another view of Marigot.
This is a view of Marigot.
This is another view of Marigot.
Fort Louis, also called Fort de Marigot, was built in 1789 to protect Marigot's warehouses from the frequent raids being staged by British privateers based on nearby Anguilla.
This is Fort Louis, or Fort de Marigot.
Not much remains of Fort Louis other than some partially intact stone walls and a couple of cannons.
The hilltop location for Fort Louis offers a fine view of Marigot and the Simpson Bay Lagoon.
This is the market in Marigot.
near Orient Bay's La Ferme des Papillons, or the Butterfly Farm.
La Ferme des Papillons, the Butterfly Farm. At the Butterfly Farm, you can see hundreds of real exotic butterflies flying freely within a large meshed enclosure. There are dozens of the most spectacular species from all over the world.
The tropical landscaped gardens and ponds are home to numerous species of rare butterflies, in all stages of the evolutionary cycle.
This is La Ferme des Papillons, the Butterfly Farm. This is La Ferme des Papillons, the Butterfly Farm.
Sint Maarten is famous for its many great beaches.
This shows the location of the Great Beaches of Sint Maarten. This is Great Bay Beach.
This is Koepikooi Beach.
The climate of Sint Maarten.
Will it be hot in Sint Maarten? Or will it be cold?
Here are the average high and low temperatures throughout the year in Sint Maarten in degrees Fahrenheit.
Here are the average high and low temperatures throughout the year in Sint Maarten in degrees Celsius. The winter daytime temperatures are about 84 degrees Fahrenheit, or 29 degrees Celsius. And at night it drops to 73 degrees Fahrenheit, or 23 degrees Celsius.
The summer daytime temperatures are about 88 degrees Fahrenheit, or 31 degrees Celsius, and at night it drops to 79 degrees Fahrenheit, or 26 degrees Celsius.
Rainfall.
Here is the rainfall, in inches, throughout the year in Sint Maarten. The yearly total is 41 inches or 1,047 millimeters.
Here is the rainfall throughout the year in Sint Maarten, in millimeters. We see that the rainy season is in the late summer and fall months of August through December. The economy of Sint Maarten.
The economy of Sint Maarten is based almost entirely on tourism. It is estimated that 85% of all employment is related directly and indirectly to tourism.
On the Dutch side of the island, the Netherlands Antilles guilder is the official currency. On the French side it is the euro.
Currency exchange rates can change daily. For the latest exchange rate, click on this icon for the Netherlands Antilles guilder.
Currency exchange rates can change daily. For the latest exchange rate, click on this icon for the euro of the French side.
The money of Sint Maarten.
1 Netherlands Antilles guilder equals $0.56 US. 1 US dollar equals 1.8 Netherlands Antilles guilders.
1 Netherlands Antilles guilder equals $0.56 US.
1 US dollar equals 1.8 Netherlands Antilles guilders. This is a Netherlands Antilles 1994 50 guilders banknote.
This is a Netherlands Antilles 1994 25 guilders banknote.
Recommended videos, Sint Maarten.
Recommended video, Sint Maarten and Sint Maarten top things to do. By Donna Salerno Travel. 2 minutes. 55 seconds.
Recommended video, the BBC travel show Sint Maarten, 6 minutes. 40 seconds. Recommended video, Shop and South Street. Maarten Street. Maarten, 3 minutes. 5 seconds.
Recommended video: Why is St. Maarten divided?
Recommended videos: Walking tours of St. Maarten. For a street-level experience of St. Maarten, view the video Walking Tours. It's the next best thing to being there.
Recommended video: St. Maarten playlist. Table of contents: St. Maarten.
Thanks for watching. Please watch some more of my great videos.